The island of Phobos in Tridon has been ruled over, or as the locals might say, captained by the Halvard family for at least 4 generations now. Jarek, son of Eric, currently holds the station as admiral and resides in the port city of Anchors. However, he is not the focus of this story. Our focus is on the story of the Fletcher's family's son, Kaelan Minatozaki. To tell the story of Kaelan Minatozaki, we must go back to his grandmother, Rowena. Born into a humble merchant family in Anchors, Rowena grew up well enough. She learned how to read, write, cook, and sew. But Anchors is a special city, and many of its denizens are taught how to wield a weapon. Her sparring partners were the Fletcher's son, Ezekiel Minatozaki, and the Halvard advisor's son, Rao Selby. And as one could guess, the trio became great friends. Like children do, they grow up to be teenagers, and then adults. Ezekiel began apprenticing under his father. Rao began shadowing and learning politics with his father, and Rowena began helping more with her family's fishing business, even though her older sister, Willa, would take over the responsibilities of it. Through these stages, Rowena, Ezekiel, and Rao remained great friends. However, both Rao and Ezekiel began to find themselves catching feelings for the fiery redhead. Ezekiel, being more bold and confident than Rao, was the first to express his feelings for Rowena. "Ro, I have a confession to make, and promise me you won't get angry or defensive and just think about it for a moment, okay?" "Okay. You know you and Rao couldn't do or say anything that would cause me to doubt who you are. We're like family, Z. Whatever this is, we can get past it. I'm beginning to like you more than just family or friends. I think I'm falling in love with you." In that moment, Rowena knew she had begun to feel the same about Ezekiel. And unfortunately, she felt the same about Rao, and she feared what would happen to their friendship if love came into the equation. She told him that she needed some time to think about it, and she ran to Rao to ask his advice, and to see how he felt about her as well. "What do I do, Rao? I do feel something for Z, but what about you? What about us?" Oblivious to exactly what she had been hinting at, Rao hid his heartbreak well. "I can't tell you exactly what you should do, Ro, but here's what I do know about us. We will always be family, and there's nothing that will take that away. I will always be here for you, and Z. If I could tell you what to do, I would say to follow your heart." Rowena had nodded, hiding her disappointment, and left. Years passed. Ezekiel and Rowena, love blossomed into marriage, and the trio's friendship did not fade away or break. Rao's father became too old to continue advising the admiral, and Rao stepped fully into his role. Ezekiel took up the mantle of his father's business, fletching and woodworking, while Rowena helped with the finances and deliveries. Eventually, Ezekiel and Rowena had a child, a daughter named Annalie, and she looked just like her mother, hair kissed by fire. Both Ezekiel and Rowena raised her well, humble, gracious, and personable. Annalie was very well liked in the community of Anchors, and became secretly desired by many after she came of age. Annalie was a talented artist and made friends with everyone as she helped her father with detailing and delivering the wooden goods he made. Life for the Minatozaki family was happy and good for a while. Very happy, until Admiral Jarek Halvard commissioned the Minatozakis to create a very lavish and intricate office chair that would be a celebration of his first-year anniversary as an admiral. At the time of this commission, Admiral Jarek was known to drink heavily, as his wife, the Duchess Isabella, was chronically ill, and most of the time, bedridden. The constant illness of his wife drove the admiral to seek his physical desires elsewhere, and it was a known fact within the Whisperers of Anchors that the admiral would act on these desires most when he was intoxicated. When Annalee brought the chair to the admiral, he had drunk more than usual that afternoon, and his desires turned on the strikingly beautiful Annalee. And being the handsome and charismatic admiral he was, Jarek wooed Annalee into the guest chambers that afternoon, where Kaelan was conceived. Ashamed of the pregnancy, and afraid of what may happen if the admiral found out, the Minatozaki family kept it a secret, claiming Annalee had fallen very ill while Rowena began rumors that she was pregnant with a second. For the most part, the lie worked. Her pregnancy stayed a secret from the community, but Rao eventually found out. "Are you certain it's the admiral's child?" "Yes, Rao, you can't tell him. You can't tell anyone," Rowena had pleaded. "Promise me you will keep this a secret." Rao nodded. "You have my word. It will be kept a secret." "Thank you, brother," Ezekiel chimed in. Kaelan was born in secret in the Minatozaki's home, but the lie had been foreshadowing. Annalee passed an hour after giving birth. Her last words, "You will do great things, Kaelan. I know it." Annalee's death was a quiet one, as her body was given the traditional anchor's burial of being cremated upon the waves. Kaelan had a great childhood, one filled with love and kindness. He was never spoilt and was taught to uphold good morals and respect others. And as he grew older, Ezekiel taught him how to work wood, fletch, hunt with a bow, and how to survive off the land. Rowena taught him how to use a blade, how to fish, cook for himself, and mend clothing. And of course, Uncle Rao came to visit often to impart his wisdom and knowledge of the world. Much like Rao, Ezekiel, and Rowena, Kaelan has two great friends, Alexander and Shay. Alexander, a Goliath and a big old muscled teddy bear type that would let his temper fly off the rails if anyone messed with his friends or family. Shay, a half-elf whose family came from the Bronzewater, and is the most tomboyish girl of Anchors who loves hunting and fishing. His friends taught him to be free and have fun how they would do everything together. The trio were and still are inseparable. When Kaelan was 13, the Admiral's wife, Isabella, finally passed from her chronic illness, and a year later, the Admiral married a new Duchess. Odelia Felderick was young, ambitious, and healthy, and it wasn't long after the union that Duchess Odelia had given the Admiral his first known child, a son named Evan. Now, Odelia was ruthless when it came to her son. He was the admiral-to-be and deserved the best with no opposition. So when word of Jarek's drunken escapades during his first marriage reached her ears 7 years later, she began to panic, knowing that there's no way Jarek didn't have another child older than her son amongst the people of Anchors. Seeking the aid of Rao to find the secret bastard, Odelia began her manic search, vowing to end the life of any offspring Jarek had before her son. Keeping his word, but fearing that it may not be enough to protect Kaelan, Rao warned Ezekiel and Rowena of the Duchess's plan. "She's smart, Z. You need to send him away. Send him to the Merigard Academy. I believe it'll be safe for him there. And, well, there he can do exactly what Anne said he would do. Great things." Do you think we need to tell him the truth, Rao?" "Yeah. I fear if he doesn't know, he could put himself into harm's way by accident. No, I've secured passage to Ferrum tonight. The ship leaves in 3 hours." That night, Kaelan's world had turned upside down. His parents were actually his grandparents. He was the bastard heir to the Admiralty of Phobos, and he needed to leave right away. With a hastily packed bag, the bow he had made himself, and more than enough gold to help him start his classes at the academy, Kaelan left his family, his friends, and his home behind. Amaranth is a world in recovery. Only a century ago, the people of Amaranth were starved of the magics of the divine. They could only remember in stories and songs how the gods once held sway in their world. It was a distant memory now, and only those few who could boast an age truly ancient were able to recall what it once was like to feel the warmth of their presence. In the centuries since their silence, the folk of Amaranth learned to rely on their own ingenuity and secular harnessing of the arcane to prosper, even thrive. But the time of silence came with its own particular strife. The vacuum of power left by the gods beckoned enticingly to those ambitious enough to fill it. Necromancy, the twisting of the weave, magic's very essence, has run rampant for a millennia, with no holy hands to stop them, that of the divine, or their mortal instruments. Those wicked enough to employ such means took what they wanted, and they took it by force. For hundreds of years, the War of the Dead was waged on all fronts. It was a veritable coup of the highest authority, staged by a powerful group of necromantic wizards who called themselves the Followers of the Star. The world was in strife as all the world's nations fought together to defeat the threat of undeath, and they were losing. When nearly all hope was lost, and many in the world believed there would never be an end, or rather, the only end would be at the teeth and blades of howling ghouls, finally it happened. The Fall. A great asteroid fell into the crystal ocean, and with it the gods returned. As if the massive rock that ripped through the sky shattered the seal that long since held back the divine, and with it a swell of radiance washed over the land. The gods purged the land of the walking dead, tearing asunder vast armies of the unholiest kind. Whatever foul magic strung the bones and muscle and sinew of these creatures was destroyed, and the lost souls finally found peace in the patient and guiding hands of Croesus. With the return of the gods, the practice of divine magic saw a resurgence that had not been felt since ancient times, long before the silence. Paladins and clerics of all faiths began to emerge stronger than ever before. And while the retribution of the gods was swift against their unholy counterparts and their wicked instruments, their blight on Amaranth would not be banished so easily. All manner of foul creatures, stinking of death and decay, wander aimless as they seek the spark they so sorely lack. The War of the Dead may be over, but remnants of that black stain on history still come shrieking and claiming from the shadows, ripping travelers from roadsides and tearing through small towns in their eternal hunger for life. Now, 100 years later, as Amaranth and its people continue to heal, peace, it seems, is never meant to last for long. A cold war brews beneath the naval country of Tridon and the Arcanatech nation of Ceres, and the world watches with bated breath as new threats arise. But this story does not concern itself with such massive troubles. At least, not yet. In a world filled with stories, Amaranth always has one to tell, and this one begins with a young man standing in front of the Merigard Academy. From what you've heard in your travels, the Merigard Academy is unusual. It could be described as a school, though what you might learn there varies so greatly that anyone declaring alumnus might be turned away from academics simply on principle. It is better described as a guild, or a fortress, a castle built centuries ago that the fishing town of Farum grew off of like an affectionate mole. It is a guild with a reputation across all of Amaranth, where the mercenaries who fight for the Merigard are told to be champions, or geniuses, or saviors, or villains. The Merigard is unusual. It is founded within the borders of Aurelia, the golden green nation of trade and mixed culture. But the Merigard swears no fealty. It provides contracts to those who pay for them, with no concern for allegiance or retribution. And as you stand here, the Merigard Academy is everything that you heard it was, physically, it seems. A stout, grey stone keep is sentineled by spires. Arrow-slit windows and protected battlements remark of a history in the structures. The main keep itself appears only 2 or 3 stories in height, though it appears wider than you can tell from here. Trees and archery butts block your view after a ways. To the sides of a stone path ahead, you see the grounds of the academy are well kept. Flat stretches of grass that appear tended to either by careful hands, or perhaps by the horses that you can hear chuffing and pacing within a large stable to your right. Short fences and paddocks weave between high trees and boulders throughout the grounds to your left, some of which showing signs of wear or practice. Banners of the Merigard, hung from high spires, flap lazily in the breeze. The sunlight dancing across the crimson fabric, the spires bastion the keep at all corners, and they reach high above the walls with large windows. Within some of them you see flashes of light. Lastly, your ears fill with the symphony of effort. The sounds of clashing blades and shouted commands echo from the training yards. Resounding thunder and staccato thumps accompany smoke that rises from within the keep. And you witness lights dropping from skies in places you cannot see. It is your story, Kaelan. What do you do?
Well, Kaelan would take in the sight of the Merigard, and with his thumbs hooked into the straps of his backpack near his hip, he'll mutter to himself, "This really is a fortress." Well, as Shay would say, fuck it. And he'll walk in to the front door.
Okay. With your passive perception of 17, as you enter the front door of the Merigard Academy, you push open the broad double oaken doors, and inside you enter a mahogany-paneled room. Across the room from you is a desk with a dwarf seated behind it, who it looks like he's busy with parchments. Around you, you see the wall is lined with portraits of all sorts of sizes, each of them with a different individual looking out at you. As you are standing in the room, the dwarf behind the counter says, "Be with you in 1 moment."
Well, take your time. He'll
sound
say that in Dwarvish, giving respect to the language.
Okay. You don't get a response, but you do hear the scratching of a quill on paper.
He will definitely check out those portraits.
Okay. Roll me a D12. A 6. 1 moment. You see, one of the portraits shows a darkly clad human who's looking out of the portrait at you with a raised eyebrow beneath dark brown hair and eyes that look cold, unwelcoming. But there is a smirk on his face, and you see that he's wearing what looks like finely made black leather armor. Beneath it, you see it says Maxwell White, spelled W-I-G-H-T, and beneath that it says Rogue Instructor.
Seeing that these are definitely portraits of instructors, he will scan the rest of the portraits to look at possibly the ranger or the fighter instructor. He doesn't know.
Roll investigation for me.
Exactly what he wants to do, but those are definitely one of the few. He's not very good at that. But.
With an 8, you skim through the portraits. The fighter instructor is easy to spot. It is a towering man, a Goliath, gray of skin with black tattoos and a tribal ornamentation. Do you speak Giant?
I do, yeah.
The tattoos are laden in his skin in a pattern that you recognize as old giant runic symbols that speak of victory and endless training, relentless improvement. Beneath that, you see that this Goliath's name is Illarad of the Mountain, fighter instructor.
I'll make a knowing smirk, being able to read the runes, and grateful that his father taught him giant to better communicate with his the neighboring island in Triton.
Yeah. With an 8 investigation, you're kind of looking around, and it seems as though the dwarf is not quite ready for you. And as you turn, you do catch sight of the word ranger. You look closer. You see it as a half-orc woman whose hair is pulled up into a tight bun. She looks serious. Her eyes are fierce in that they are brown, but they look as though they could see straight through you. Small scars line all around her neck and her clavicle, and she is wearing what looks like finely made hide armor. And there is a bow clearly in her hand. You can just see the limb of it in the back of the portrait. It says her name is Triss Kurthair, Ranger Instructor.
I have a hard time with that name. Not the first one, but that last one's a little tricky.
Do you say that out loud?
Yeah, he likes to speak to himself.
Okay. The dwarf behind the desk sets the quill down as he looks up at you, and he says, "Sorry, were you talking to me?"
Oh, no, just looking at the portraits here.
Right, how can I help you?
I suppose I was looking to enroll.
Ah, new student? Right, come here. Go ahead and sign your name on this ledger here. And he thuds an enormous book down in front of you.
I'll approach the desk and the ledger and kind of read it quickly, skim through it.
You notice none of the names in this ledger, you can't read them. It's like you're trying to focus on something that is slightly just out of focus, and you cannot seem to settle your eyes on any of the names.
I think he'll kind of be off-put from it, blink a few times, and just sign his name quickly.
Do you sign your whole name?
I do. Kaelan Minatosaki.
Okay. Having signed it, you see Persh makes a small note. Looks like a little check as he closes it. And then he says, "To your right over here, you'll see a room labeled Selections. You're going to go right in there and choose your course of study."
All right. Thank you very much.
"Thank you for coming by." And he goes back to his parchments.
Kaelan will head over towards the Selections.
Okay. There is indeed a simple door that is marked Selections in a brass plaque. As you open the door and enter, you see that immediately opposite you is a massive table that is absolutely laden with equipment. There are various sections along the table where every single course of study is available, from barbarian to bard to warlock to wizard to sorcerer. Toward the middle of the table you see ranger, where there are longbows and crossbows and satchels and tons of what look like packs of equipment and supplies that would be useful to anyone out in the wilderness, along with sheaves of arrows and bolts, even a sling and a large bag of bullets for it.
I'll wander over to that area.
Okay.
And I think the first thing he would do is look at the fletch work of the arrows in the quiver.
Roll me a... You can roll me investigation or perception here. I'll allow either.
Okay. Definitely perception.
Okay.
Hey.
These arrows, each one has been individually fletched, what looks like professionally. Whoever made these arrows knew exactly what they were doing. All of this equipment now, as you're looking past it down at the quiver and the longbow, even the suit of studded leather armor that's available there. It is all beautifully made and ornately engraved with paisley in red and gold colors just on the edges of everything. Hints at the Marigard's influence, but nothing garish, or would give away someone who is in hiding.
Everything's very professional here.
You hear from behind you a voice say, "Oh, aye, we do our best."
I think if he didn't notice him before, he doesn't really. That would definitely you whip around to the voice.
You did not see him. And whipping around, you see behind the door that is closing, there is a familiar human seated on a chair with his feet kicked up on the pedestal. You immediately recognize Maxwell White, the rogue instructor, with a book in hand, though it's closed, and he is regarding you with a small smirk on his face.
Maxwell.
I see my reputation precedes me.
Or the portrait in the front.
Allow me my ego. Are you here to sign up?
I am.
Go ahead and choose your course of study, and then you'll be handing your tuition to me.
I think I've already got my class taken care of. And he kind of holds out the bow that he has. It's unstrung to keep the string, well tended to, not worn. But he'll definitely motion to the bow that he's made himself, and then he will pick up all the gear from the ranger section.
Maxwell will say, "Your 100 gold helps pay for your equipment, so that's all yours."
Maybe I can make improvements.
Don't tell Triss that.
I'll make a note of that then.
I'm just kidding.
I suppose I change into them here, or?
Aye. Would you like some privacy?
I don't mind it.
Maxwell nods and he steps out of the room. The door closes.
His father taught him how to wear leather armor, so he knows how to equip what is needed to equip.
Okay.
With a deft hand, he'll quickly get into the studded leather.
Sure. It is comfortable. It fits you very well. It is fortunate, because you know that, especially from what your father has taught you, resizing armor is a pain.
Yeah. And then he'll kind of rearrange all the stuff into the backpack the way he likes it. He's very meticulous, very organized.
Okay.
And I'd say it'd probably take him a good 15 minutes to do so.
Okay. I think after about 10 minutes, there'd be a knock on the door, and Maxwell would crack it open, and he would say, "Are you decent?"
"I'm good."
He would come back in, close the door behind him, and he would look at you. As you're still getting your stuff tucked away, he would say, "When you're ready, I just need you to sign what course of study you're choosing, and then I need your tuition."
All right.
100 gold, as it always is.
That's what I heard. I'll finish up organizing his things. He'll waltz over to Maxwell with a little pouch that he's already set aside with the 100 gold. And he'll offer it over.
Maxwell will take it, and he kind of glances inside the bag real quick and counts it with a brief ruffling of the fingers to the coin, and he closes it up, and then he holds out another ledger, though this one be smaller than the first one. And he says, "Sign here, and your course of study here."
He'll sign his name and sign Ranger.
Perfect.
Of course.
All right. Looks like everything's in order, and you're all kitted out, so let's get moving. I'm going to show you the way to the Ranger class, and then once you have gotten yourself introduced, I will show you to your dormitory.
Wouldn't the Ranger class be outside?
You'd think, wouldn't you? And he opens the door and gestures for you to follow him.
He'll follow.
The first thing you'll learn is much here isn't what it seems to be. The next thing you'll learn is you can always ask questions. And as he closes the door behind you as you're out in the hallway, he gestures to the main room you just left before the selections, and he says, "At the front desk here is Persh. He'll be handling all of your tasks, whether they be free agencies, which is when you're sent on a job to learn hands-on, or once you hopefully become a contractor, he'll be handling your teams and the sort of duties you are assigned to."
Right.
And you see Persh just kind of glances up at you and waves and just goes back to working.
Yeah, he probably wouldn't say anything. He'll just nod. And he's always been taught to be respectful of people's work. And he seems like a very busy person, so...
He certainly is. Maxwell then gesture to the wall behind Persh, where you see it's like a half wall with openings around each side of it. And he says, "Behind there is the mess hall. Meals are prepared at 6 in the morning, 12 in the afternoon. Well, I guess it's noon. And 6 in the evening. Otherwise, there's food always ready for you. It's just proper meals, that's when they're served. So if you're hungry, go ahead and grab yourself a bite to eat. You can eat as much as you like, just don't get sick, or you'll have to deal with that." And Maxwell turns and heads down to the right, down the same hall that you first entered. And as you're going down, you notice, with your high passive perception, many of these doors in this hallway are ornately decorated. Some of them are more simple. You catch sight of one room that looks like it's labeled Druid's Classroom. And then you see another one right next to it. These doors are way too close to make sense to you. There's no way there's entire rooms behind these doors.
What's the door next to the Druids? Like in between?
You glance at that one. You see it is the Fighter's Classroom.
He'll kind of stop in his tracks. So...
Aye? And Maxwell stops to look at you.
Did the fighters train in a closet?
So you notice that. And Maxwell will come over and he will crack the door open for you. And as you're looking in, you see a massive training hall. It's a 2-story room where there are people that are training. You see that there are a number of fighter students that are going through sparring. Much larger than makes sense to you.
Well, this... How?
Maxwell closes the door. He looks at you and he says, he just kind of shrugs and says, "That's the wizard instructor. He's the one who set it up.
Uh-huh.
It's magic. I can tell you that."
I can tell you I would have liked that for my room back home.
Aye. Well, now you have it for your room around here. And he continues down the hall. Finally, he stops in front of a room that you see is labeled Ranger Classroom. And as he stops in front of the door, he looks at you and he says, "The first thing and the last piece of advice I'm going to give you, don't be afraid to ask questions, but forget everything you already knew."
It's going to be hard, but all right.
Maxwell kind of tips his head and says, "I'll be waiting here. Best of luck."
Thank you. And he'll push into the Ranger Classroom.
The Ranger Classroom can hardly be called as such. As you step through, your feet stepping into a puddle of water. And as the door closes behind you, you look up and around, and you are in a forest. Or at least a piece of forest. There is an open glade beneath your feet, and trees reaching high up into a sky that seems almost constantly overcast. You see that there are a number of individuals, 3 of them, in fact, milling about and performing what looks like exercises or training, until one of them sees you and you recognize Triss, the same half-orc you saw in the painting. And she begins to walk over toward you.
He will give a respectful half bow and offer his hand as a handshake.
I'll drop your token in here as well. So, as Triss approaches you, you see she smirks a little and she says, "Huh. Good morning, and welcome."
Morning.
You look fresh out of water.
This is quite amazing.
I quite like it.
I have to say so. I do myself. This is wow. Excuse me, Kaelan Minotozaki.
It's a pleasure to meet you, Kaelan. I'm Triss Kerthayer, and I imagine you have a few questions for me.
Yeah. What am I gonna learn here? First and foremost.
You're fresh off the boat. I can smell it on you. You're gonna learn. Well, first we're gonna figure out what suits you, where you're comfortable, where you're not. Then we'll piece together what sort of knowledge you want to have. Because the way I see things, as a ranger, knowledge is more important than being able to shoot things or stab things. The more you know about something, the less time you'll waste making mistakes chasing it down.
Makes sense.
Where are you from? I could take a guess, but I'd rather you just tell me.
Phobos.
Lots of Tridonians lately. Hey, Tier! And you see that one of the other students who was, looked like he was studying a patch of soil, emerges from the brush. And you just see him say, "Oh, why?" And she says, "New student. Another Tridonian." You immediately recognize the garb of a sailor, but you also recognize the markings of a Priscellan. So, maybe not the best relationship between islands. There's not like hostility, but it's definitely a little bit wary. And he looks at you and he says, "Oh, you're right." And then he goes back to what he was doing. Did I say something? Did I miss something here?
Where he's from and where I'm from, we have a bit of a rivalry.
I don't get the pride. Okay, I'm from North Aurelia. Okay, it's everyone just hangs out with everyone around here. And she looks at you and she says, "So, are you a bowman? You like to take things up close? Looks like a bowman. That's a fancy bow."
Yes, actually, my grandfather is the Fletcher of our port city.
Oh. Maybe I'll ask for your help making arrows then. I can always use an extra hand.
Always willing. I brought my woodworking tools, so I'm always willing to help.
Good. Might have a teacher's favorite here. You hear she says over her shoulder at Tier, and Tier does not seem to care, as he is still studying whatever it is he's looking at. Anyway, it's a pleasure to meet you, Kaelan. I think we're gonna get along just fine. This, where you are right now, I know it doesn't look it. But, well, okay. We're not in Aurelia right now.
I could gather as much. Where are we?
I'm going to pull you to the world map real quick. And let me activate it here. And she references a place that you would have heard of because it's well known, but she would say, "We are in the Skywood."
Huh. That's what this place looks like. I've only heard stories, but I never would have imagined.
Well, it's a pretty place. There are some rules we have to follow as we practice here, okay? So, the reason we chose the Skywood is it's peaceable. There's less enormous abominations and monstrosities here. But there are cloud giants that live nearby, so if we encounter them, we are at peace with them, so they won't attack you or anything like that, but maybe leave them alone. You leave them alone, they'll leave us alone.
I'll leave them alone.
What do you know about Zephyr?
What do I know about Zephyr?
Roll a history. You're not proficient in history, so probably not much, but if you roll high...
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Glorious dice, though. I love those freaking things. Yeah, you know Zephyr is it's the top side of the floating continent in the sky. You know that there are some people that live up there. You know it's kind of dangerous. There's something about a treaty that goes around, but you don't really... You know a treaty exists. That's what you know.
Okay.
You can rephrase that however you like.
Something about a treaty. I guess giants, humans, top side of a floating island.
That's the gist of it. I'm not a history teacher. Look, we don't fuck with the cloud giants. They don't kick us off the rock. That's it. It's their home. But it's real ideal for training rangers. So
I can tell this is. Do I have time to explore?
So today is your day. You've just signed up. After we're done with this interaction, I am sure Maxwell's waiting outside to show you to a dormitory. But the rest of the evening's yours. You could choose to explore Farum, or you could explore the classroom. I hesitate to call it a classroom. Just make sure you can find your way back here. Now, part of the charm of this room and your passing selections is you will always know where the door is.
Right.
And as she says that, and you think about it, it's almost as if the feeling of the sun on the back of your neck, you know the door is directly behind you.
A little strange, but helpful. Can't wait to get started.
I like to hear.
But I suppose I should go get a room first.
You should. Also, maybe consider a meal.
I'm a bit hungry.
And you can catch and harvest the creatures you find here, just as you could in any forest. It's just, the mess hall is really nice to have.
Yeah. Is there... Actually, I do have a question about the town.
Mm-hmm.
How good are the fish here?
Fishing off the docks into Kaelan Bay is always lots of tuna. You'll find lots of that in the water around here. It's pretty good. It's clean water, so...
What would be the best place to get some?
Are you good at sailing?
Come from...
That was a silly question, wasn't it? All right, if you take a rowboat out, maybe a quarter just like half a click off the dock. Just out by Quarters Pile. You'll know it when you see it. That's the best fishing spot I've found.
Okay. Well, I really meant is there a tavern or a bar that actually serves the tuna?
Oh! Aye. Sorry. I thought you meant go get it yourself. It's how I handle it.
No, I do plan on getting some myself on a time off, but that's very useful information. But
There's the Sailor's Tavern down by the docks. It's called the Ship Stool. They don't have the best food, but it might be an environment you're more comfortable with, as that's where all the sailors come in and, converse. Adversely, the Merry Guard is a tavern on the main stretch approaching the Merry Guard. They like their puns. They have the best cook in the city.
I think I'll go over there then.
You'll probably run into other students. Be warned.
Do you have a title I should call you, or is it Triss you like?
Just Triss.
Very well, Triss. Thank you very much.
I look forward to seeing what you know.
It's not much, but I hope it's good enough.
I'm sure, also, as you see, she looks around. She says, Nox is out here somewhere, but you might find her later. I don't know what she's doing.
What does she look like?
Oh, she's a halfling, but she's covered in tattoos.
Right.
You can't
Thanks
miss her.
again. I'll go get my room now.
Sounds good. And you see Triss goes back toward Tyr and says, So do you know what kind of creature that is yet? And Tyr looks up and says, No.
Can I look over?
You gonna glance over? Yeah, roll me a survival.
Okay. I'm gonna try and one-up him.
A 19. Roll me a nature check.
Okay.
You understand the shape of the foot that laid the track. That's a natural 20. You know exactly what this creature is. It is rare, which is probably why Tyr is confused about it. But you, in your own hunting practices, have seen this exact creature. It is a mix between a squirrel and a hare. Generally, they're just referred to as forest dane.
What, forest game or
Forest dane. Forest dane.
Okay, I think as he opens the door, he kind of very proudly turns his head and says, "That's a forest dane."
You see Tyr look over at you and says, and Triss says, It is, isn't it? You can see the extra claw right here. And Tyr says, Oh. As you've one-upped the student who's been here a little bit longer.
I had to prove Phobos better. That's all.
I see. One moment. Okay. As you leave the Ranger's classroom, you head out into the main to the long hall, and there you see Maxwell is indeed waiting for you.
I think he would come out kind of smirking to himself after one-upping his fellow Trident
Yes.
companion.
Maxwell,
classmate.
Yeah, Maxwell looks at you and he says, So it went well, eh?
Aye, very well.
Right. Your room will be this way. And he goes a bit farther down the hall, just a couple doors down, and then he opens a door. It is, you see, a short hall that leads to a round room where there are 5 doors along the wall. He points to the 2 farthest doors, and he says, left one's is, if I remember right, that's Nox's room, and the one next to it is Tyr's room. Any of the doors you can have. Go ahead and pick.
I'll pick the door next to...
Next to Tyr.
The exit's here, yeah.
Of course you do. All right. So that's the first door on the right when you enter this. And so he pulls open a bag and he hands you a brass key. And he says, once you're in the room, that key will open the door, but it will also only open the footlocker that you choose.
Thank you. What should I call you? Sir or Maxwell or?
Maxwell's fine.
All right. Thank you very much for showing me around.
Hi.
Appreciate it.
No problem. And if you have any more questions, you can usually find me in the selections room.
Do you teach at all?
Every day.
All right. I'll just walk in.
Maxwell grins as you walk in. You see that the room that you've selected, there are 3 beds around a large central pillar. They don't seem occupied, but the room itself smells really good in here. It smells really fresh and clean. It smells of pine, as there are small little pine buffs that have been thrown around on the floor, and smells of just clean air. There are 2 windows in the room, each one frosted, but on each side of the center bed, so that each bed has a window access, basically.
I'll take the middle. No, I imagine he'd like the wall. So, something against the wall.
So that's the right or the left bed?
We'll take the right bed.
Can't go wrong with the right.
Yep.
As you take the right bed, you see that there is a large footlocker, an enormous footlocker, actually. It is wide enough that you could set your longbow down in it lengthwise, and it would fit. Next to that side of the bed, you see there is a tall dresser. And as you have chosen that bed, you find that the key fits the footlocker perfectly.
All right, and he'll go ahead and take some time to organize the footlocker the way he likes it.
Okay.
Including a multitude of little wooden figurines that I imagine he would have carved on his passage from Trident.
Sure.
And they're just a collection of different animals that he would have seen on the island.
Which do you think he's the most proud of?
I think the most proud, and which would have been the most complex to make, is an actual slithering snake that took multiple parts to get it of wood to get it to slither the way it does.
That's interesting. Like you have like hinges in the snake carving.
Exactly. Yeah. Just having to. That probably took him about a week to 2 weeks time.
Sure.
In his travel.
Okay, I like that. You have made and you've hand carved a number of wooden trinkets, animal carvings, and one of them is a complex snake that you're very proud of. I like it. Okay. After getting yourself settled into the room, you kind of get your stuff put away, you personalize your space a little bit, and then what?
Well, I was going to say the figurine that is most important to him, which he would have made first on his trip, would have been the leopard one. It's Shay's favorite animal. Because it's fast and it's agile, and she always claimed to be fast and agile herself.
Right.
And he would set that, if there's a bedside table, he would set that on the bedside table.
Okay, you do that.
And then lastly, before he leaves to take to the town of Ferrum, he would take out this 4-foot flag of anchors.
Okay.
And as he leaves, he tries to find some wooden pegs or like pins or nails or something to hammer that flag on the front of the door of his door. So TRC is it?
Roll me a D100. Yeah, you would find some tacks
All right.
in the room.
Yeah.
For the purposes of decorating, and you hang on the flag of anchors, Fidi, or Phobos, on your door. Okay.
Yeah.
That's not going to cause any issues.
Yeah, and then he'll head on out.
Okay. Head out onto the... You going to get some food, or are you going out into the town?
He's gonna take leisurely walk his way over to the Merry Guard. He is pretty hungry.
To the tavern, okay.
To the tavern, yeah.
Alrighty then. You make your way around. It's not a far walk. It's literally just a block away. And you see that the actual front of the Maryguard Academy is pretty busy. There's people going in and out, and there's people that look like they're going to training or from. You see lots of people that wear vestments of Maryguard clothing, but they have full colors. And you get the feeling that these are contractors, not students. Full-on mercenaries that work for the Maryguard Academy. And many of them, they look extremely well armed, or they look very competent, but they also look very distracted, as in they don't even give you a second look. And as you make your way down the short stretch of road to the Merry Guard, you see it is a handsome but very large tavern, and you see there is a painted sign which shows a man in guard's armor with a flagon that he's raising high above his head, and next to it says the Merry Guard.
I'll give a small smile to it. Head on in.
Okay. You head into the Merry Guard at lunchtime. It is fairly busy, not crammed or packed or anything like that. And as you're looking around, go ahead and roll me a perception check.
Okay.
14. You see lots of tables that you could easily find a seat at. You see that they're across the room from you, down on the opposite end of a long table that divides the room in half, there is a bald human man who's serving up drinks, and there is a kobold that emerges from behind the kitchen with a platter of food, handing it to what looks like a kind of azure-skinned, maybe it's a tiefling, bringing that over to a table, and next to you there is an enormous golden dragonborn who just kind of looks at you, and when you make eye contact with her, she just nods.
Good day.
Morning.
And he'll head over to the right and pick a booth or table, whatever is available.
Sure. You sit down at a table. It only takes a moment before one of the servers approaches you and says, "Welcome to the Merry Guard, where it's your duty to be merry." And then a small surge of fire, of confetti out from their hands. "Would you like to see a menu?"
Yeah, yes, please.
He sets down a couple of pages for you to look at, which is a drink menu. Oh, come on. Please work. And a food menu. So you can see both of them.
I do not. I see both. Okay. I looked at the.
Are you looking at the Discord?
I'm looking in the handouts.
No, they should just be popped up on your screen.
They are not.
One moment here. I'll try again.
There's the beverages. Okay.
Oh, it's just lagging.
Menu.
Okay.
Yeah, it's lagging. Okay. Any recommendations?
The server looks at you and then he says, "The hearth stew is a town favorite.
It's fairly cheap, and it'll fill you right up. And if you're looking for a drink, I like the Shiraz.
Right. Not much of a wine drinker, but any of the ales you recommend?
The server just kind of shrugs and says, "Yeah, the Jade Stout's pretty good. If you're in the mood for that."
Yeah, I'll have one of those. Just a pint. And are there any fish dishes?
Yeah, it's not on the menu right now, but we do have, as always, it's basically a filet tuna over greens with rice. It's pretty popular. We should get the menu altered here.
I'll have one of those.
Okay, it's just gonna be total's gonna be 2 silver.
And I will place 3 silver as a tip.
You see that the server kind of looks at it and says, "Hey, thanks," and pockets it, and he just heads back.
All right.
And as you're seated at this table by yourself, you, correct me if I'm wrong, you are wearing your new studded leather, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Roll me a d10.
Okay.
Seven.
Uh-oh.
As you're seated at the table, another tiefling seems to have noticed you. A white tiefling, very pale, and you see that her horns have been hewn away. And before you can say anything, she pulls out a chair and sits down at the table with you. And as she thumps down, she looks at you and she says, "You're new."
I
You're
am.
You're new to the Marigard, right?
He'll nod. I assume you go there as well?
I'm a fighter.
Huh. I've thought about joining the fighters, but I'm more of a bowman, so I figured that the ranger class would be better for me.
Yeah, it could be useful. And she holds out a hand.
He'll hesitate a little bit, but he'll finding the respect for it, just shakes her hand with a good handshake.
She feels pretty strong as she shakes you back. And she says, "Name's Lilith."
Nice to meet you. I'm Kaelan.
So what do you say? You wanna help me out when the time comes?
Sure. Do you need help now?
No. But, okay. I should maybe. We're gonna get assigned free agencies, right? Where we have to go out and do shit?
I was told that, yeah.
Yeah, so normally, Hirsch picks your partners. But I don't want to get stuck with some humdrum bard that I don't need any help from.
I see. You're picking your allies quickly, eh?
Yeah, and you look useful. Real useful, so.
I'm glad I look useful. And,
you made your own bow. I can see it on your back.
Yeah. I'm quite proud of it.
So? I can see we could be friends. I could be useful too. What do you need?
I don't know what I need right now. I'm just kind of getting my feet under myself.
It's your first day.
First day, yes.
Okay, well, where are you from? And she leans up to the side, and then she lights what looks like a cigarette and begins to smoke it.
You know, I've heard those can kill you at time.
Uh-huh. Soaking a knife.
You're not wrong there. From Trident.
Whereabouts?
Phobos?
Okay, you're fine.
Got a beef with one of the Eidolons, then.
I mean,
Got me.
I'm Ceresian, so I got a beef with most of them. But I never met a raider from Phobos, so we're good for now.
Would I know what islands raid?
Perseus and Condinos.
Okay. Alright.
Those are the biggest islands. They have the biggest navy, and recently they've been the most like trying to get things out of Ceres.
Okay. So you're, I take it you've met Tyr then?
Fuck that guy. That guy's so full of himself. Fuck him. Yeah, I've met him.
Well, then you'd be proud to know that I showed him up in the class today. First day.
Oh yeah?
Mm-hmm.
Please tell me you made fun of his pink hair, the son of a bitch.
No, I just made fun of his knowledge. He didn't know what creature he was looking at, and I picked it out right away.
That's even better.
Oh.
Yeah, we can get along. And then, as the server's coming by, he sets down a large flagon of the ale you've ordered, and then the platter of fish. And he says, "Is there anything else?"
Did you want anything to drink?
Yeah, I'll take an ale.
I'll buy it. Go ahead.
The white sawhorn tiefling kind of smirks at you, and the server says, "That's another 2 copper."
He'll hand over 2 copper.
He picks up the 2 copper with like a neat little magical trick as the coins roll over themselves into his hand, and a small firework out of the top of them, and says, "I'll be right back with that." And he leaves.
Does he always do that?
Yeah.
All right. It's never seen that before, especially not in a tavern.
I don't think any of the other servers do that. I think it's just him.
What does he think that'll get him more tips?
Maybe he just likes to show off.
All right.
Did he get a tip out of you?
I always tip.
Well, then
Better that way.
maybe it worked.
Make sure they don't spit in my food then.
Yeah, that's a good thinking. And you see that, like, roll me an insight check.
Yeah.
With a 22, you see that she kind of pauses as she says, "Yeah." And you see that she's, like, thinking about times when she's ordered, and it's not been super smooth. So there's, like, a hint of maybe suspicion and, like, a raised eyebrow as she considers it, and then takes another hit from her cigarette. So anyway, what's your plans around here? You just gonna try and pass your exams and then move on, or are you thinking bigger?
Never really thought that far ahead. Just planned on putting my head down and getting through it.
Well, when we go on free agencies, we're going to be running into a lot of people. If we impress them, there might be work that we can find that's not for the Maryguard.
Sounds pretty nice, actually.
Oh yeah, there's lots of people that'll pay if you're trying to make money.
Right. Do you know, have you ever been on one of, I guess, a job outside of free agencies?
No, but I haven't been here that long.
How long you been here?
Oh, 2 weeks.
Well, that's it.
Yeah? What, did I look like an old salt?
You seemed like it. You really give off the air of it. So,
I'll take it as a compliment.
it was.
I like you. We're gonna get along just fine. Probably.
Glad to hear it. So, what's anything fun here to do in town?
Thus, drink. There's a login district if you like to fuck around with the workers over there. There's the dry docks. There's the theater. There's lots of fishing, and there's the Allenwood if you like to go out there. It's pretty boring around here, actually, as I think about it. Most people just go hunting.
Hunting's not bad. Used to go every morning during the summer.
You are cut out for a ranger, aren't you?
I thought so.
I didn't have such a luxury. I grew up. You see, like, she kind of stops herself. Well, it wasn't so picky. It wasn't so easy.
Well, I imagine there's not much to do out there in the desert of Ceres.
You're right. Except for. You see, she's, like, looking at you. I'm going to make a roll here for her decision. There's the sand sledding. That's always fun to do if you have a good group for it.
That's a. Oh, what's that?
It's where you rig up an old. We used to get them a lot from traders that came from Tarracona. You get a toboggan, right? You break the legs off of the thing, and you tie it onto usually a horse. But the faster a creature you can find that's more willing to do it, that's better. I had a druid friend who once got a hold of a bullet, and she managed to convince it to sit still long enough to tie a toboggan to, and then you can go flying over the dunes. It's fun. If dangerous, but fun.
Sounds pretty fun. It's, sounds like it could be a sport.
It could be. People talk about it. It's not legal, specifically.
Oh.
Because you're taking an animal and risking people's lives to control it, to pull a toboggan. But the nicest... You see, she's like constantly conflicted as to how much she wants to tell you. And finally she says, the nicest one I ever been on was pulled on. Do you happen to know what a skeesher is? Roll nature.
No idea.
Roll nature.
Oh.
You might.
Hey.
A skeesher is something you are familiar with, but you've only read about it. You've never seen one. They are native to hills and plains, because they are extremely fast. And what it is it's an 8-legged wolf, basically, but with the snout of like a badger.
Oh wow. Okay.
They can burrow and they can run extremely quickly over land, and they're famous for it. So she says, one of them pulled us for 2 miles out into the Sichuan desert, and well, my dad had to come save us.
That sounds pretty fun. Actually,
Well, if we ever end up around Sanctuary, I'll show you the way of sun gliding.
Would we ever get pulled out for free agency in elsewhere besides just the immediate area?
If we prove ourselves useful.
So we have a chance to go to maybe Tarracona or...
Oh yeah. Especially if you get hired. They go all over the world. I've heard
Nice.
I've heard of contractors doing tasks out in Saris one week, and then next they're up on Zephyr.
Wow, that pretty far. Well, are there any sports here that are played?
Oh, there's always a group getting around to play some shinting.
Has he heard of shit?
Everyone's heard of shinting. It's the sort of thing that is basically fantasy field hockey, where the teams can be as big as they need to be, but the goal is similar to field hockey, except instead of just trying to hit it straight into the net, you're trying to make points by hitting the ball off of enemy teammates into their net. There's no goalie. It's just you try and bounce the ball off of the other players.
Never actually played shinting myself, but we have something similar in Phobos.
Oh, you do? What's that?
It's the teams are set. It's 7-on-7. There is a goalie. There's an actual goalie, but it's about 60 yards apart. There's two circles, about 5 feet in radius, and there's a basket in the middle. And the ball is that we use is never touches the ground. We have to throw it to each other, and the goal is that, and when you catch the ball, you can't move, but you can only move 1 foot. 1 foot has to stay on the ground, and you have to pass it to each other and work together to try and get it past the goalie and hit the basket on the ground. And
that sounds interesting.
Basically it's like lacrosse in a way, but with a boarskin ball that has a rubber core. This is out of character.
Yeah, I figured as much. She says, "Hey, what you call that?"
We call it circles.
Circles. Okay. Well, I haven't heard of that around here, but that doesn't mean we can't maybe try and make that happen.
I believe it's only Phobos that plays it. We have this big sporting event every year, and we have we have teams play the circles tournament, and then we have time trials with our skip boards out in the lagoon. Pretty fun.
Sounds like it. Well,
Yeah.
one of the reasons it's so dangerous to do the sand sledding is there's undead out in the Sishan Desert all the time, so you don't know when one is buried and will suddenly come blasting out of the dune underneath you. I imagine you don't have that problem in Phobos.
Not so much. I think our dangers are a little more. They look more like dragons and dragonborn, or rather, sorry, lizard people, not dragonborn.
Ah. I admit I don't know fuck all about Phobos, so this is all news to me.
If you need to know anything, you can come to me. I'll tell you about it.
About Phobos, yep, I'll ask you. See, I told you you'd be useful.
Well, glad to be of service.
Do you eat the meal that is set in front of you?
Oh yeah, just chatting away with Lilith, and
You gain 6 temporary hit points.
awesome.
It was delicious.
I think it'd probably remind him of home.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
The tuna appears to have been poached in butter, so it's delicious. And Lilith is smoking and drinking, basically just chilling. She has 1 foot that she's thumped up onto the table. You see that she is wearing Marigard scale mail. She's in medium armor. You see that on her hip hangs what looks like a short sword, and on the other hip is a dagger. You don't see anything else aside from the satchel that one wears to carry their equipment around. She's pretty relaxed now as she's chatting about the sporting events of your native countries and such like that. Finally, after you've finished your meal and she finishes off a second ale, that she ordered the second one, she says, "Right. Why don't we get the fuck out of here? Go do something more interesting."
All right, lead the way.
Lilith will stand up, kind of thudding the chair back. She does not push it in because apparently she was raised in a barn. And as you're leaving...
He'll push in her chair.
Okay. Let me see if she notices. She's not super perceptive. She rolled a 2. She does not notice you push her chair in.
Okay.
As you head out into the Ferrum city proper, roll me a perception check.
Okay. Oh. Best skill, and I roll that.
She's bringing you straight down to the docks. You roll a 9. As you're making your way through, you see all sorts of little businesses. You see signs for things like Buds, and Herbals. You see Patty's Cakes, which appears to be a bakery. You see the Physickery. You see the Cobbler. You see what looks like a large smithy that's labeled the Iron Nails. And as she's making her way down the long stretch, I'd like you to roll me a D100.
Okay.
Because random encounter is possible here. 18.
That's a great success.
Great success in Call of Cthulhu.
Yes.
Let's see here. As you're making your way down the street, you suddenly see there's a small crowd gathering, and you see that on top of a crate, what looks like maybe it's like a potato crate, there is a man, a mime, wearing black and white, who's doing strange performance gestures. You've never seen one before, but you've heard of him. He's doing an entertainment for these people, and you see that a few coins are being tossed his way. However, with a passive perception of 17, as you are watching this man, you feel a tug on your belt.
So he'll, at the tug, he'll like chop down with his hand, like a chop block,
Okay.
and try to catch the wrist of whoever's trying to steal the coin purse.
Roll, this'll be, just roll me a dex-based attack. So, a dagger, bow, doesn't matter. See if you're fast enough to get him. A natural 1. You move to catch the hand, and you end up just slapping it, and you hear somebody, what sounds like a young male voice go, "Ah!" And then, as you turn to look, you see the back of a head as what looks like a halfling is darting through the crowd to get away from you.
Well, first and foremost, did he actually get the bag?
No, you felt it happening, and you slapped him away before he could actually get it.
Okay. Yeah, I think he'll frown and just let him go. He's not gonna... Yeah. I'll just frown and let him go.
Lilith does not notice anything happened. And she's just watching the show, and you hear her say, "The fuck is he doing?"
He'll look back.
It's like a weird wave? What's the fuck? You can see the performer is attempting to pretend as if he's holding something heavy above his head. And it seems as though Lilith has missed the joke.
Oh. Well, I look at that, and then I'll glance at her belt line to see if
Let me see if she got.
anything's been cut.
You notice her dagger's missing.
He'll tug her on the shoulder. You just got pickpocketed for your dagger. Let's go get him.
She looks down and says, "I fucking... Oh, son of a bitch! Alright, where'd he go?"
And he'll just start darting off towards...
Okay, roll
where the
me
halfling went.
roll me a survival to track this fucking little shit.
Okay. Is she helping? Can I get it?
Let me roll to see how well she's been rolling absolute dog shit. Yeah, she rolled a 4. She's trying to help, but it's a detriment.
Okay.
So you are good enough with a 13. Let me roll for the halfling. You see that, like, around a corner, maybe a block up behind one of the buildings, behind the bakery labeled Patty's Cakes, you see, like, there is a window for where all these cakes are displayed, cakes and pies and breads and such, and you wouldn't see this person except there's a window there, so you can see, like, through the window. Then the corner window, there is a halfling that is ducked around the corner and is, like, basically, like, trying to hide himself, but he is unaware that there is a window showing his back. He rolled a 2.
I'm gonna try and sneak up on him.
Roll stealth.
Okay.
This dude rolled absolute shit.
Oh my god.
Let me roll perception for him, with how my dice have been. Okay, so you begin to sneak, like, you begin to, like, slowly walk, trying to make yourself look like you're not pursuing this individual, but you just keep looking at him to make sure he's still there. And he looks up and he sees the windows here, he's like, "Ah!" And he sees you and he just darts down the alley.
Okay. I mean, eventually I'm gonna catch him because he has short legs.
It's true, you do move faster than the halfling.
So I'm gonna try and get...
Okay, we're going to do a skill challenge here. All right?
Okay.
So, the way we're doing this is, firstly, I need some more intense music than this relaxing town river music here. Let's see. This will do.
And as soon as he darts off, I'm going to be like, Lilith, this way.
She looks and sees what you're pointing out, and she says, "Get the little fucker!" And she is, like, running along with you. Okay. The way we're going to handle this is I want you to roll initiative, and I'm going to roll initiative for the halfling. And if you're higher, you're going to have a better chance of catching this little shit. So this is the first stage. Oh, you're going to have to roll pretty good. This is the first stage.
Is there a button on the sheet features?
Initiative at the top. If you see underneath proficiency, just click on initiative and it'll roll it for you.
Got it. Oh. There's no combat encounter, it said.
It's true. Just roll me a d20 and we'll add 5.
Okay.
Oops.
Or I'll roll a dexterity check.
14. Okay. The halfling is a quick little son of a bitch, and apparently has beaten you in initiative. So, this skill challenge, the way it's going to work is you need to reach a number of successes before you reach a number of failures. I'm not going to tell you how many of each, but if you have any ideas on how to track down this halfling, now is the time to start batting them out. And Lilith is your ally in this encounter, so you can use her as well. She is a dexterous fighter, which means she's good at acrobatics, athletics, and she's fast. She also has action surge. So, what have you got?
Okay. Well, he darts off in the alley.
Yeah, he's going through the alley. As you round the corner, you can see him just darting off to the right.
Okay. Before we hit the alley, I'm going to quickly try to perceive the layout of the docks and try to see if I can direct Lilith towards cutting him off.
Okay, go ahead and roll me a perception check.
Okay. Yes.
24. Okay, so you get a good look around at the area. You can see where the buildings are high, where they're low, where there are alleys. You look toward the docks, and you can see that there are lots of streets that go in that direction, but there's only a couple that go perpendicular to it, and you can see an easy way to send Lilith that way.
Okay. Before I hit that, I said, go that way. You can probably cut him off.
Good thinking! And she runs that way. That was a success on your skill challenge.
Great.
All right, so Lilith is running down the alley, running down the other way, perpendicular to where the thief, quote-unquote, has run, and now you're running in the direction that he ran in. Next idea.
Okay, imagine... He's probably going to put some obstacles or try to, like, skirt around some obstacles.
Yeah, absolutely. He's a small creature. He's trying to use the environment to his best. And as you round the corner, you see coming down this street, you see the halfling just... and just, like, darting underneath carts that he's short enough to run right underneath. But they are clearly in your way.
I'm going to do my best to parkour over any... obstacles in my way to try and not run around them.
Roll acrobatics.
Okay.
Hey, that's pretty good. The DC was 12. You dart through the carts. You're like lifting your legs up in full jumps to get through the carts quickly over these crates and barrels, and you see vendors going behind you like, hey! And you're like already gone. And you're chasing this halfling down the corner. That's another success.
I think you would, any of the vendors saying, hey, sorry!
All right, as you're running, you're hauling ass. You are gaining on this halfling. He's only 15 feet ahead of you as you're running. And he, right before you feel like you could just reach out and dive and catch him, he suddenly grabs onto a banner and he swings up onto, and he managed to get onto the low roof of a one-story building. And he's looking down at you and just, and then he begins running down the length of the roof. What do you do?
Okay. Gosh.
Remember, you can use Lilith here.
Yeah. Well, I sent her on a different way. Do I see her at all?
Well, we're kind of inventing this as it's happening. So it doesn't really matter where she actually is. You just have to come up with like a solution she might have.
Okay. Gosh. I think she seemed pretty strong, so maybe if I shout loud enough towards the right where she went down, I'll just say, Lilith is on the roof! And hopefully she has the athletics to get up onto the roof.
Okay, so you're going to have her roll athletics to see if she can catch him from the other side?
Yeah.
Okay, roll me a d20.
Okay.
Let me pull up her sheet real quick.
Hey, that's not bad.
Okay, she has a +6 to athletics. Alright, so that's an 18. So, Lilith hears you. And you hear her say, got it! And as you out of your peripheral, you hear the scrabbling and suddenly the clatter of feet on wood, and you hear ah! And you come around the corner and you see Lilith is hanging onto the roof with one hand, and the halfling she has by like the scruff of the back of his shirt. That's 3 successes. You've successfully completed the skill challenge. You've caught the thief. And as Lilith is slowly trying to climb down, she says, that was a good call, you little fucker. And she's slowly climbing back down, and you hear him say, look, I'm sorry, I'm just hungry, that's all it was. Please, don't hurt me. And as she steps down onto the ground, and she, like, is holding onto him firmly. Lilith is a tower of a woman. She's like 6 foot. So this halfling, she's got him like this. His feet are nowhere near the ground. And at this point, he's like kicking, but his hands are like on her wrist so that it doesn't like hurt his clothes. And he's, please, I'm sorry. And Lilith walks towards you.
Hey. Well, I don't think he's gonna get away from us. So let's put him on the ground.
Lilith will set him down, but she doesn't let go. And you see the halfling just, please don't hurt me. I was just hungry.
All
Okay,
right.
you understand what it's.
Calm down. Now, what's your name?
Carlisle,
All right,
Timothy Carlisle. What do you?
Just, you took the dagger. Give it back.
And he tentatively lets go of her wrist and reaches into the bag, and pulls out her dagger. And Lilith snatches it from his hand and says, "Thank you, you little fuck," and then slides it into her scabbard.
Now, what do you think that would have gotten you to feed your stomach?
5 gold? At the pawn shop? It's a nice dagger.
Yeah, but 5 gold runs out, right?
Oh,
Pretty quickly.
Maybe, but I've been full stomach for a week. Would have been nice.
Would you like to be not hungry forever?
You're gonna kill me?
No. He realizes the. No. I mean, do you know how to fish?
No.
No.
They all come in the docks. It's not like you can just go take those. They're all watching.
No, I mean. All right. Would you like to learn how to fish?
Lilith is watching you, and she's her eyebrow is raised, but the halfling says, "When you say fish, what do you mean?"
Like catching your own fish, being able to cook it, so you can eat?
You could do that?
I'll show you.
Roll me a persuasion check if you mean it, or a deception check if you don't.
I mean it.
Persuasion.
Uh,
Natural 1.
I am gonna use the inspiration.
The one that I
got.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't want this kid to be. Okay.
A 9. Okay, let me
Better
roll an
than a
insight
1.
check. He rolled a 1. So he says, okay. Oh, okay. All right. That's yes. I'd choose that because it means that she won't be strangling me. And Lilith is like, she lets go of him.
Now, if you have to promise me something, no stealing, or I'll sick Lilith on you, and you learn how to fish.
I will learn. If you're willing to show me, I'll learn. And Lilith says, I bet.
I'll go ahead and insight check him as a earnest.
Yeah, insight. The idea of catching his own fish appeals to him. He means it.
All right, follow me. And I'll lead him towards the docks, and I will try to find a general store there where I can get a simple line and fishing pole.
Yeah, on the main stretch of Ferrum, the general supply store is right in the middle of it. You would pass it on your way down. So getting him a fishing pole and line basically is going to be 5 silver.
Okay. I'll go ahead and I'll buy that. And
Okay.
Lilith, do you know how to fish?
She looks at you and she says, "No.
Would you like to learn too?
I grew up in a desert. Yeah, I'd like to
That's
learn.
fair.
If we're having a teaching moment here, I might as well tag along."
Good life skill. My father taught me, so let's go fishing.
Well, I'm following you now. Because when I led the way, I had my dagger stolen.
Fair enough. I'll go to a dock where not much is happening.
The first dock at the South Docks, it looks like as it's getting later in the afternoon, ships are not coming in, as it's the time for trade is kind of over for boats to offload their cargo. And the ships that are here look like they're going to stay. So the first dock, which is the southernmost one, is empty.
Okay. I will go to that one, and we'll go to the end of it.
You would not be alone. There would be other people that live here in Ferrum that would also be fishing off this dock.
Okay. Then I think we'll sidle up to probably the oldest, wisest gentleman that I can see.
Roll me a D100.
Okay. Oh.
Okay. The oldest and wisest gentleman you can see is an ancient-looking Goliath who has a rocking chair set out on the end of the dock. And you see that in one hand he has the fishing pole that's just in his left hand, and it's more propped up against his knee than actually is intent on it. And in his other hand you see he has a large tin mug. Beside him is a large, what looks like a carafe, and it smells of coffee as he is sitting there drinking. And he looks over at you, the three of you, and he just says, "Hey, come out to enjoy the water, have you?"
Always.
"It's always a pleasure to have company." And he takes a drink. "Coffee?"
Let's I wouldn't be opposed to it.
"You got a mug?" "All I have are these. This one, really." You have a mess kit, so you'd have a tin cup, basically. The old Goliath would share his coffee with you.
Okay. Yeah. I'll definitely take the coffee.
The coffee is not normal coffee. Apparently, it cancels enhanced ability on you.
Ooh.
It grants you cat's grace, which doesn't really help in the situation, but you kind of feel limbered up. You feel flexible, and it's likely more for the Goliath's sake than yours.
Okay. Hey, that's pretty good, Carlisle. I'll offer the coffee to him as well.
The halfling looks suspicious, but he drinks it because when you're hungry, you don't turn down what's offered to you. And he drinks it, and he says, "Oh, it's got a kick to it."
Good.
Lilith is already smoking again.
Yeah. All right. And I'll just look over to the old Goliath. It's this guy's first time fishing.
Well, I hope you listen well, because the most important lessons you can learn are while you're waiting.
And I will express in giant, possibly would I bet, well, I imagine Kaelan knowing some old proverbs in giant.
Sure. Yeah.
And he'll say one about waiting.
I think the Goliath would be impressed that you know giant. What's the nature of this waiting proverb?
Basically, it would be the mountain only knows how to wait, and we should be like the mountain.
I think the Goliath would tip the cup of coffee to you, and he would simply say, in giant, back to you, "Some of us never stop." And takes another drink.
Yeah. He'll drink as well. And, well, do you have any advice for this new fisher?
Don't rush it. And the halfling, who is like now had a sip of coffee and seems very high energy, says, "Yeah, okay, don't rush it. Fine, perfect. When can we get started?"
All right. And I'll show him how to cast his line. And I tell him this takes a while, but it's worth it in the end.
Go ahead and roll me 3 rolls. The first is a survival check. The second is a nature check. And the third is going to be a persuasion check.
Okay.
And how you do on these rolls is going to determine his DC. Okay. So the actual task of casting, you don't do the best of job. Oh boy. The dice say no! Alright. For the nature check, when you cast the line, you realize with a natural 1, after you've cast the line, it takes you like 10 minutes and nothing's happened. You're like, I forgot to bait.
Don't do what I did. You need to put a bait on the line. And he'll laugh at himself. And
the Goliath in his rocking chair will just... It's performance anxiety. We all get it. He takes another sip.
And then persuasion, eh?
And then persuasion. A 16.
Boy, we're still out of this bunch.
Yeah. That's how it goes sometimes. Alright. I'm going to roll a pretty high DC intelligence roll for this halfling. Who knows how he'll roll, you know?
They say natural 20.
I didn't roll a natural 20, but I did roll pretty good. And now I'll roll for Lilith. Okay, Lilith is not bright, but the simple way in how you are conveying the lessons and steps of fishing, she seems to get it. She seems like a quick study on this.
Good.
The halfling, you basically spend the whole evening drilling the practice of baiting the line, getting ready to cast, hurling it out, and then being patient and not twitching or moving or shifting to scare away the fish. And it takes a couple hours, but finally the halfling gets a good cast and a good solid just like stretch of time when suddenly the halfling's rod, he catches something and he doesn't know what to do.
All right, hold the reel tight and pull it back. Yank it back first so you catch the hook into the gums.
He does exactly what you say. I just rolled to see how he handled it. And he stops and he says, "Oh, okay." And as he yanks it, he begins to try and... He's just standing there, like, with the rod up. He's holding onto the reel and he says, "Know it."
No, reel it in. So it's going to fight back, so it's going to be hard.
Okay, he starts to reel and just you hear this of the reel as he's pulling in the fish.
Okay. Like that sounded like it's going out. But okay, cool. I just watch him. I let him do it, and watch him do it.
I'm rolling him one more roll. He catches a small but healthy-looking tuna.
All right.
It's maybe about this long. He catches it, and it's dangling off the end of the rod. He's like, "It's very heavy," and he's as it's flopping back and forth in the air. You have taught this halfling how to fish. He's not great at it, but he's managed it.
All right. Hey, that's a good catch. Now, well, let me show you how to score it or skin it, scale it.
Oh, all right.
It's pretty gruesome, but let me show you. And I'll take a paring knife and I'll show him how to like dress the fish and.
This is going to be another survival check.
Okay.
$15. Let me roll a comprehension check. Okay. It's a kind of painstaking experience as you're teaching this halfling how to actually break down a fish and get it ready to be eaten. You know, deboning it, getting all the guts out, and getting the scales off and everything. It's a tedious process, and all the while you just smell the constant plumes of smoke coming from Lilith as she is right over also watching. And finally, when it's all done, you've taught a halfling thief how to fish. So well done. You've also taught a fighter how to fish.
All right. Well, good, useful life skills.
Yes. And the halfling with his prepared fish and his reel, his fishing rod, like stowed away, the reel always pulled up, and then he is holding on to this fish that's ready to be cooked, and he says, "Thank you.
No,
I saw my life flashing before my eyes not too long ago, so this has definitely turned out to be a whole lot better than I thought it was going to be."
no. You know, what I didn't say when we caught the fish and when we killed it, actually, is what my father, taught me is that we thank the fish because we're taking a life to give life. So you can say it now if you want to, even though it's already dead and gone for a while.
The halfling looks at the fish in his hands and he says, "Thank you."
You've killed a living thing so you can live on. That's basically the gist of it. Now to cook it, I'm sure any one of these taverns could probably heat it up for you and cook it for you for free.
The halfling looks up at you and says, "Oh, I'll go try at the ship store right now. Thank you." And he runs off.
Okay.
And Lilith, looking at you, says, "I think I've learned a lot about you."
He'll shrug.
You didn't have to do all that.
But I know, so I don't mind sharing.
Fascinating. And useful. Thanks for the lesson, Kaelan.
Always happy to do so. Now it's really late. I assume I probably have to be up early, so
Yeah, I do too. I'm going to bed.
all right. I'll see you around.
Yeah, I'll see you on a free agency, I imagine. I won't have to worry about eating.
I'll remember your name. Thanks, Lilith.
Good night, Kaelan. And
Good
she marches off. And it is there, as you finish your first day, with unexpected circumstances occurring, that's where we're going to end your first session.
Yay!
Well done, sir.
Thanks.